Hello everyone and welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review stuff that's mostly pretty good and maybe one of the best movies of all time, or something that sucks and is probably one of the worst movies of all time and should remain in the depths of hell. And welcome to the first edition of my Christmas special. Now I did hint at the last Starfighter review that I was gonna be doing a Christmas special, and now it's coming to life. Really quickly, before I actually get onto the review itself, I do want to apologize for the mic quality or like the static that you could hear during the last Starfighter review. Apparently, there was an earthquake going on at the time, and like not like an actual earthquake, but like a small one, which kind of interfered with my uh with my mic. I don't know exactly what was going on, but it kind of caused the static to happen throughout the reviews. So I do really apologize for that. Um, but I think if you can try and ignore the static, I think you can overall get the points that I'm trying to make. So um, so that's I'm really sorry for that. I didn't realize that until after recording. Um, but it's just kind of I don't know. It was kind of weird. Um, but anyway, let's get started. So the first two reviews. Well, by the way, just want to let you guys know the schedule for this month is gonna be. I'm gonna be having two reviews per Saturday, for each Saturday until the week of Christmas. I will be having two reviews each day, each Saturday. And the first two reviews I'm going to be talking about is Frosty the Snowman and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Now I get it; these are technically not films. These are technically Christmas specials. You know, the Frosty the Snowman is only like 25 minutes long. I think Rudolph is only about 50 minutes long. Um, but honestly, you can't think. I don't think Christmas without these. So like, I really wanted to talk about them, and I was like, well, might as well get them over and done with for the first special. Um, for the first annual Christmas special. So that I wouldn't get people talking about like, oh, you didn't mention Frosty or Rudolph, and I'm like, well, might as well get them done and over with. I don't care if they're not movies. I will say this though: the rest of the month will have film review, like actual reviews of films of like Christmas movies. So do expect those next week. I will hint. I will tell you guys what they are at the end of the Rudolph review. But first, let's talk about Frosty the Snowman. Um, so this was aired on December 7th of 1969. The budget has not been confirmed yet, or at least I can't find any information about the budget. And obviously, box office domestically and worldwide isn't a thing because this is a TV special. And this was directed by Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, who obviously Rankin-Bass, you know, the production company that made several TV specials, including Frosty and Rudolph, along with Santa Claus is Coming to Town and Little Drummer Boy and some others as well. Um, but really, their most famous works are with these two. But again, I'll talk about this one next time. But um, so anyway, let's go over the plot. So a discarded magic hat brings to light the snowman that a group of children made until a magician, Professor Hinkle, played by Billy D. Wolfe, wants it back, and the temperature starts to rise. Frosty, played by Jack Vernon, will melt or no longer be a jolly soul. The kids cannot get him away from Hinkle in warm weather. So he hops on the train to the North Pole with young Karen, played by June Farrer. Um, so yeah, a pretty familiar plot, like or pretty like everyone knows the story of Frosty the Snowman. Kind of like how most people know the story of the Polar Express or Pinocchio or Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or something like that. Um, but anyway, let's talk about the voice cast. Because yes, this is both of these are technically, you know, animated movies. I mean, Frosty is the traditional animated, like cells and stuff like that, while Rudolph is stop motion. But these both have voice casts, so we're gonna go over both of them throughout the course, more in both of these reviews. But anyway, let's let's get back to Frosty. So we have Jackie Vernon as Frosty the Snowman. Um, and I think he did a great job as Frosty. And he's probably my favorite Frosty out of the three that have so far have come out. I will actually talk about more about that later on in the video. Um, but anyway, but like I said, Jackie does a very good performance. Next up, we have June Varen as young Karen, and also as the school teacher at the beginning. And she does a fine performance you know, in this special. Um, I think personally, um, like I said, I think she does fine. Uh, Usually kid actors around the time, if there was any, mostly did pretty bad. And even like I said in, I think my last review about the last Starfighter, really most kids, even like around the 80s, that weren't directed by Steven Spielberg, were mostly pretty garbage. But for 1969 standards, um, she did fine. We have Billy D. Wolfe, with a silent E at the end, I believe, as Professor Hinkle, who is the magician that is trying to get the hat back from Frosty. Because technically, yes, the hat did land on Frosty's head and he brought him to life, but it is technically Professor Hinkle's hat. So he's totally he totally has the right to try and get it back. Um, but in the terms like in the for the special itself, it's made that Professor Hinkle is the bad guy. Um, and um, uh, a scene that happens later on when I probably will get to my favorite scenes. Uh, he does kind of become he becomes kind of a douche about near the end of the special, but again, I'll get to that later. We have Jimmy Durant as the narrator, who basically he plays himself, um, and um, this was his last performance in any sort of like film or television or theater before he unfortunately passed away. About I think around 1973, I think. Um, but yeah, it is truly unfortunate that we don't have him anymore. But thankfully he does sing the title song, which is daily listening for me. Or like like every year around Christmas time, like in December, I always have the song on my Christmas playlist, along with the film version of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and Jingle Bell Rock, and some other ones, including some remixes actually as well. Um, Obviously I can't play it here for copyright reasons, but you can easily look the theme up on YouTube. I believe the theme actually was collected into a best of Jimmy Durant CD set. So you could easily look it up and listen to it on there on YouTube. We Paul Freeze. We Paul. I paused there for a second because I thought he had like the Freeze part was his middle name. But it's just Paul Freeze. But he plays Santa Claus and the traffic cop that appears near the beginning of the special, when Frosty and the kids are um, traveling through the town, and they come across the traffic cop at the Uh, we visited at the traffic light. I don't know why that was so hard for me to think about. um, and then obviously play Santa Claus near the end of the special. Um, as Fro- as Frosty, as Santa, he is probably one of the I don't know, probably one of the more memorable Santas I've seen on film and television. Probably my personal favorite version of Santa, as far as I can remember, is from the Polar Express, which if you guys don't know, well, I'll get to that later, but I will be discussing the Polar Express in this month. Um, and finally, we have Susan Davidson as Karen. Now, I was looking this up when I was doing research about this film, and I was trying to figure out who, like, where she was, or like like what she played, like, and I just came to the conclusion that I think it was two separate people who played Karen, because I believe um in the original version it was she was played by um the original actress was one of these two. um I'm just saying for example because I don't know. um but let's just say for example uh that June played Karen in the original broadcast version, and then on subsequent airings and home media releases, the voice of Karen was replaced by Suzanne. Um, again, I don't know who replaced who. If you guys want to try and find the information out and do know it, leave it down in the comments down below, because I would like to know about that. Because really, I don't know. Um, And yeah, that's really about it for the cast. So, um, let's get on to the fun facts, and I'll talk about the music very briefly because really there isn't that much composed music, and even then I can't find the composer's name anywhere if there even was one. And then we'll get on to my rating, so and then we'll talk about some stuff after that. So I have three fun facts. So if the first one is, did you know that Frosty is related to both Rudolph and Astro Boy? So like I said earlier, obviously, Frosty, being directed by, the people who made Rankin-Bass, obviously they made Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, so there's a connection there. The Astro Boy connection is actually a little bit more subtle. Now, I don't know if this is actually true, but according to my research, um, the people who did the animation for Frosty was a Japanese company who also animated Astro Boy, like the anime. Um, and um, which I found very shocking. Like really, they hired a Japanese company to do animation for an American special, which is surprising. And yeah. Um, oh yeah, the second fun fact is something I already mentioned earlier about this is Jimmy Durant's final final film performance before he passed away, which is a shame. Um, and the final fun fact is I'll actually get to that when I am done talking about this film. Um, But anyway, the music, there's some composed music that like sounds like kind of like traditional animated score. Uh, and like I said, I could not find if there was a composer for this special. But obviously, the main piece of music that's used throughout the special is the catchy theme song of Frosty the Snowman, again a performed by Jimmy Durant and also a whole bunch of children as well. like in the background, and they also take part in some key notes or some key parts of the music. And like I said, you could easily look the theme song up on YouTube. Um, but yeah. And so I'm gonna give Frosty a 6 out of 10. It's a good TV special, and I think everyone should watch it around Christmas. Even if you don't like it, just have it on in the background for your kids to get distracted. Um, and yeah. So before we get on to the outro, I do want to discuss there is technically two sequels to Frosty the Snowman. The first one was it's called Frosty's Return or Frosty Returns, which is actually on this Blu-ray. You can see it right there. It was released in 1992, and it's about 23 minutes long, which is 2 minutes shorter than the original special, which is about 25 minutes long. Um, this special, uh, it's pretty forgivable. It's probably my least favorite out of the Frosty trilogy. Um, and might as well mention now, my final fun fact is that this special is not a true sequel to the original. Um, yeah, it doesn't make any mention of the original of like events in the first one. Um, so you can kind of count it as its own, like as a different version of the Frosty tale. Um, but I still watched it for the purpose of this review. Um, and like I said, it's very forgivable. It's probably out of the three Frosty specials, this is the one I watched the least, and I really don't get why, because it has as John Goodman in it as Frosty, and also John Doyle Murray as I believe the evil mayor or like the evil chairman of like a company that makes like it's like summer breeze or something like that. It's basically like a spray can that you spray on snow and it makes it disappear. Um, and yeah, it's a very forgettable, uh, quote unquote sequel special. Again, and like I said earlier, or it this it the Frosty's Return special is readily available on all versions of the original film, like on DVD and on Blu-ray. Like I said, you can see right there that Frosty's Return is on this Blu-ray. And I think ever really since the original DVD came out, um, it was always included in the original version or as a part of the original special on DVD. Um, and by the way, I just want to say really quickly, this transfer looks amazing for Blu-ray standards. And um, if you do want to get the film, I say if you don't care about picture quality, go for the DVD. Uh, but I mean, I guess the Blu-ray would be a sufficient upgrade. Um, but yeah, and finally, what I want to talk about before I get to the outro is there is a third movie in the Frosty trilogy, and which came out in let me see in 2000 and well, the DVD came out in 2005, but I think the original special came out in 2004, and that film or that special is the Legend of Frosty the Snowman. Um, this was uh, as usual, a direct-to-TV special, and um, I put this above Frosty's Return because at least it has some connections to the original. Um, and it has freaking Burt Reynolds like narrating the story, and but overall, I mean, honestly, yeah, I think in overall this is way better than Frosty's Return. But I think the only thing that kind of subtracts from this one is the guy that they got to play Frosty. They made him into I don't know, kind of like a um kind of like a dopey kind of moron, like with the voice especially, because he's like, "Oh hey guys, I'm Frosty the Snowman." It's it's so weird, and I don't even know why they even chose that voice. But really, everything else about this film or this special is okay. It's certainly not the worst thing I've ever seen. Um, and I sometimes, again, I watched this for the purpose of doing this review, and I thought it's certainly better than Frosty's Return. It's way more entertaining than that special, but not as good as the original. Um, and at least this one, like I said earlier, they hint back to the first one with the father of the dad of the main character in this film being Professor Hinkle. Um, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's good. That's good continuity between these two. Is that they actually hint at, Professor Hinkle had a son, which became the father of the main character in this special. So you could literally kind of watch these two specials back to back, and you would be fine. But really, when this special came out in 1969, it was seen as as a self-contained story. Um, and there's obviously merchandise like up the ass. Um, but yeah. Um, so yeah, that's really it. That's really all I want to talk about Frosty the Snowman. There's a really nice sunset outside. Um, so if you guys want to go and check my anything else out, my channel will be right around here. It will pop up with my beautiful face right here. Over here, you can check out my Tron review. Um, well, I don't actually no, my last Starfighter review. Sorry, and probably uh and the Tron review will be up there. And stay tuned for later on today, where I'm gonna be talking about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. The Red-Nosed Reindeer. Red-Nosed Reindeer. Jesus Christ, I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. Anyway, stay tuned for later on today, where I'm gonna be talking about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, released in 1964. Live long and prosper. Out.